The rain was coming down so hard that night it blurred everything ahead of me. I could barely see the road, but Callum kept telling me to keep driving. I didn't feel right. My hands were shaking on the wheel, and something in my chest felt off, like a quiet warning I couldn't explain. I remember saying maybe we should pull over just for a few minutes, but he brushed it off like I was overreacting. Then it happened. The car suddenly lost grip. 1 second, I was holding the wheel steady, and the next it felt like the road disappeared beneath us. The tires slid, and everything spun out of control. My heart dropped into my stomach. I tried to correct it, tried to fix it, but it was too late. The sound of the crash was loud and sharp, like everything breaking at once. My body jerked forward, the seatbelt cutting into me hard. For a moment, everything went silent. I remember gasping for air, my hands trembling as I instinctively reached for my stomach. That was all I could think about. Not the pain in my arms, not the burning in my chest. Just the baby. I kept whispering, "Please be okay, please be okay," over and over again. But Callum didn't say anything comforting. Instead, he turned toward me with this cold, distant look. His voice was calm, almost too calm, when he said it was my fault, that I should have been more careful, that I caused this. Those words hit harder than the crash. At the hospital, everything felt blurry and slow. Nurses moved around me, doctors asked questions, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I was just waiting for someone to tell me my baby was still safe. But deep down, I already knew. And when the truth finally came, it didn't feel real. It felt like the world had just stopped. When we got home later, I thought maybe things would change. Maybe he would finally show some kind of care. I was wrong. Callum didn't look at me the way he used to. There was no warmth, no softness. Just blame sitting in his eyes. He told me I didn't deserve to sleep in the bed, that I had lost that right. Then he pointed to the floor. I stood there, still weak, still hurting, not just physically, but in a way I couldn't even explain. And in the doorway, his mother, Lenora, just stood there watching. Silent. Still. Like everything happening was completely normal. That was the moment I realized something inside my life had changed forever. Before all of this, my life with Callum looked calm and stable from the outside. People used to say I was lucky. He had a good job, he spoke well, and he knew exactly how to act in front of others. At dinners, he would hold my hand, smile at the right moments, and make it seem like we had the kind of marriage everyone wanted. I believed that too. In the beginning, he was attentive in a quiet way. Not overly affectionate, but steady. I thought that meant he was reliable. I told myself that not everyone shows love in big ways, and that what mattered was that he stayed. But there were small things I didn't question at the time. He liked things done his way. If I chose something different, even something simple, he would correct it. Not loudly, not in anger, but in a tone that made me feel like I had made a mistake. At first, I would laugh it off. Then I started adjusting little by little just to keep things smooth. His mother, Lenora, was always around. She didn't live with us, but it felt like she did. She had a key, and she came and went without asking. She would comment on everything from how I cooked to how I spoke. Callum never stopped her. In fact, he often agreed with her in small, quiet ways that made it feel like I was the one who needed to change. Still, I convinced myself it was normal. When I got pregnant, I thought things would finally shift. I thought we would become closer, that we would start acting like a team. For a short time, it seemed like that might happen. Callum became more careful, more involved. Lenora softened a little too, or at least pretended to. I held on to that feeling. I focused on the future, on the baby, on building something better. I ignored the moments when Callum's tone would slip back into control. I ignored the way Lenora still watched me like I was being judged. I thought if I just stayed patient, everything would fall into place. Now, looking back, I can see it clearly. The signs were always there. I just didn't understand what they meant yet. That night, the rain didn't let up for even a second. It hit the windshield so hard it felt like the glass might crack. The wipers moved fast, but it still wasn't enough. Everything outside looked blurred and distant. I remember holding the steering wheel tightly, trying to stay focused. My body felt heavy, and there was this quiet unease I couldn't shake. I told Callum I didn't feel right driving in that weather. I asked him if we could switch or just stop for a bit. He didn't even look at me properly. He just told me to keep going. So I did. The road ahead curved slightly, and that's when it happened. The car suddenly slipped. It was like the tires lost all connection to the ground. My heart jumped, and I tried to steady the wheel, but it didn't respond the way I expected. Everything started spinning. Time felt strange in that moment, fast and slow at the same time. I remember the sound first. A sharp, crushing noise as the car hit. My body jerked forward, and the seatbelt pulled hard across me. It hurt, but I barely noticed. My mind went straight to one thing: the baby. Callum barely looked at me. When he did, it wasn't with anger or sadness. It was worse than that. It was indifference. Like I didn't matter enough to feel anything about. He moved through the house as if everything was normal, as if nothing important had been lost. Lenora stayed close, more than ever. She watched everything I did, her eyes following me like I was being measured all the time. If I moved too slowly, she noticed. If I stayed quiet, she noticed that too. But she never said anything kind. Only small comments that made me feel smaller. I stopped trying to respond. At first, I thought I was just too tired to argue. But then I realized something else. Every time I tried to explain myself before, it only made things worse. They would twist my words, turn them into something else, and I would end up feeling confused, like I was the one who didn't understand what was happening. So, I went quiet. And in that silence, I started to see things more clearly. I noticed how Callum would control small decisions without even thinking about it. What I ate, where I sat, when I spoke. It wasn't loud or obvious. It was quiet, steady control that had been there all along. I just hadn't seen it for what it was. Lenora supported it in her own way. A look, a nod, a short comment that made it clear she agreed with him. They didn't need to say much. They understood each other. And I understood something too. This wasn't new. This wasn't something that started after the accident. It had always been there, slowly building, shaping everything around me. I had just been too focused on keeping peace to notice it fully. But now, with everything stripped away, I could see it clearly. The grief was still there, deep and painful, but something else had started to grow alongside it. Awareness. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I stopped reacting after that. At first, it wasn't a plan. I was just too tired to argue, too drained to defend myself. But then I noticed something. The quieter I became, the more they revealed. Callum kept talking the same way, expecting me to respond, to explain, to push back, so he could shut me down again. But I didn't. I just listened. And for the first time, I heard everything clearly. The way he spoke wasn't just frustration. It was control. Every word was meant to keep me in a place where I doubted myself. Lenora was no different. She didn't need long sentences. A short comment, a look, even silence from her carried the same message. That I was the problem. That I had failed. So I let them believe I accepted it. I moved through the house quietly, doing what was needed, saying only what was necessary. But inside, something had changed. I wasn't shrinking anymore. I was watching. I started paying attention to details. The way Callum handled things outside the house. The way he spoke on the phone, how careful he was with his image. It didn't match the way he treated me. That difference stayed in my mind. I began to remember everything. Every word, every moment. Not to hold on to pain, but to understand it. There was a pattern. And the more I saw it, the less confused I felt. The grief was still there, but it no longer clouded everything. It sat beside something new. A quiet strength I hadn't felt before. They thought I was broken. They thought I had accepted my place. But in reality, I was becoming more aware with every passing day. Stronger, not louder, but steadier. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix things anymore. I was trying to understand them. One night, everything came to a point. It wasn't louder than the others. There was no shouting, no sudden movement. It was quiet, like always. But something in me had changed enough that I felt it clearly. Callum started again, repeating the same words he had said before. That it was my fault. that everything that happened came back to me. His voice was calm, controlled, like he had said it so many times it no longer needed emotion. Lenora stood nearby, listening. And when he finished, she gave a small nod, like she always did. That's silent agreement. Before, those moments would break me. I would try to explain, try to defend myself, hoping they would finally understand. But this time, I didn't feel that urge. I just looked at them. And for the first time, I saw them without confusion. I saw how certain they were, how comfortable they had become in placing everything on me. They weren't questioning themselves at all. They believed this version of reality completely. And that's when it became clear. They expected me to stay like this. Quiet. Weak. Carrying everything they placed on me without resistance. That's how things had always worked for them. That was the moment something inside me shifted fully. Not in anger. Not in sadness. In certainty. I didn't say anything back. I didn't need to. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to change their minds. I understood them. And more importantly, I understood myself. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to suddenly care or take responsibility. Waiting for that would only keep me stuck exactly where they wanted me. But they had made one mistake. They believed I would stay the same. Standing there, I felt something steady settle inside me. A quiet decision forming, stronger than anything I had felt before. I didn't belong in that space anymore. And I knew, without a doubt, that I wasn't going to stay there. After that night, I didn't rush anything. I moved carefully, the same way I had been, so nothing seemed different on the outside. Callum still acted like everything was under his control. Lenora still watched, still believed I was exactly where they had placed me. I let them believe that. Inside, I was preparing. I started putting things together quietly. Important papers, small belongings, anything that mattered. I kept everything in places they wouldn't notice. I didn't want questions. I didn't want attention. Every step had to be calm, planned, and invisible. I also paid attention to timing. When Callum left the house, how long he stayed out, when Lenora visited, and when she didn't. I memorized their routines without making it obvious. Days passed and nothing changed on the surface. Callum still spoke the same way. Lenora still stood in the background like a constant presence. But none of it reached me the same way anymore. Their words didn't sink in. They just passed by, empty. That gave me space to think clearly. I wasn't acting out of anger. I wasn't trying to prove anything to them. This wasn't about making them understand. It was about stepping out of something that had already shown me what it was. The more I prepared, the calmer I felt. Everything I needed was coming together piece by piece. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to move forward without looking back. And then, one day, the moment came. There was no warning, nothing dramatic. Just a quiet opportunity, exactly where I needed it to be. The house was still. No voices, no footsteps, no watching eyes. I stood there for a second, taking it in. This was it. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I picked up what I'd gathered, walked to the door, and opened it. My hand didn't shake. My steps didn't slow down. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my own movement. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. And I didn't look back. The air outside felt different. For a moment, I just stood there, holding my things, letting it sink in. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It didn't press down on me like it used to inside that house. It felt open, real. I didn't rush. I walked forward at my own pace, each step steady. There was no voice behind me telling me to stop, no presence watching my every move. Just space. Later, when the time was right, I saw Callum again. He didn't look the same. Not calm, not controlled. There was something unsettled in his expression, like he couldn't understand what had happened. Like something important had slipped out of his hands. I didn't feel fear standing there. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't bring anger with me. I just spoke clearly. I told him I remembered everything. Every word, every moment, every time I was made to feel less than I was. He tried to interrupt, to take control of the conversation the way he always had before. But it didn't work. For the first time, I didn't react the way he expected. I didn't argue. I didn't try to explain myself. I just stayed steady, and finished what I had to say. There was nothing left for him to hold on to. Lenora wasn't speaking either. She stood there, quiet again, but it felt different this time. Not powerful, not certain, just silent. They had spent so long believing I would stay in the place they gave me. But I didn't. And now, standing in front of them, I wasn't asking for anything. Not understanding, not apology, not closure. I had already taken back what mattered. Myself. When I turned away, it felt final. Not heavy, not painful in the same way as before. Just complete. They stayed where they were. And I kept walking.